Hello, and welcome to She Rises, the podcast where women in leadership take center stage. I'm Tiffany-O, your host and the founder of Virtual Partner, where we champion humanity in the workplace to build thriving organizations. With over 30 years of experience in change management and servant leadership, I'm here to bring you powerful stories, actionable insights, and inspiring conversations with trailblazing women who are breaking barriers and redefining success. Whether you're climbing the corporate ladder, leading your own venture, or looking for that next level of impact, this is your space to learn, to grow, and to rise. Let's dive in. Now, today we're going to delve into inspiring story, share empowering strategies, and uncover secrets to thriving in leadership. We are honored to have Katie Winchenbach with us. Now, Katie, if you haven't logged onto LinkedIn and seen her new post about her podcast, Lead Fearlessly, she's all about strategies for confident women leaders. Now, Katie's a corporate attorney, podcast host, a nonprofit leader with a fervent dedication to empowering and inspiring women. Her extensive work in leadership training and elevating underrepresented voices has made a significant impact in her field. As the reigning national United States Maine Miss 2025, Katie uses her platform to advocate for the advancement of women leaders. Her mission is clear: to unlock the potential within every woman to achieve greatness. Let's dive into her journey and discover the transformative insights she has to share today. Welcome, Katie.
I am so excited to be here, Tiffany, and thank you for that incredible introduction.
Oh my goodness. You deserve it. You are, it's like
Yeah.
you are larger than life. And I'm so honored and proud to have someone like you sit in front of me this morning. You inspired me. We were just chit-chatting about how to stand up some of these initiatives and, bootstrapping your business and how you've really inspired the creative edge into leading fearlessly. So this podcast, you just launched it. Tell us a little bit about your podcast, what you hope to accomplish with it. And I just have to take my hats off to you. If you all are listening and you want tips on standing up an amazing podcast, you have to see how she executed the standing up of her podcast. It's pretty amazing. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, so I just launched actually a week ago, which was super, super exciting. My podcast name is Lead Fearlessly, and I interview incredible women leaders, including Tiffany, who was kind enough to come and join me for a podcast episode, and really just dig into what does it mean to be a leader? What are the strategies for success? And talking about all of those things that we don't necessarily talk about a lot that are really critical for women leaders to learn as they want to advance in their careers.
Yes, so I'm bookmarking it on my podcast app on my phone so I can listen to all the episodes. I don't want to just review my episodes. I want to hear all the amazing leaders and gain some tips. And I can't wait as you start dripping through some of those interviews to be able to come on and reply to those on your LinkedIn and on your channel. So
Thank you.
just
Yeah, and we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on YouTube, so whatever platform you want to listen on. And we also have a free downloadable book list that has recommendations of leadership books from our speakers and books that are written by our speakers. So it's a great free resource for folks who want to dive in a little bit deeper.
excellent. Now, when we get to the end of our call today, and if you are listening or watching on YouTube, or if you're listening, we're going to have a link to where you can actually click through and get to her podcast and also get to that book list. So we want to make sure we make that available to our listeners today. Thank you very much, Katie, for that. So let's talk a little bit about, we ran through a lot of your big accomplishments. And of course, to get the big milestones, there are other things that happen along the way, and we want to hear your story. So what inspired you to pursue your current career path? And then also there's the entrepreneurial side of Katie. So we want to hear a little bit about like how you pivoted there and you're running parallel tracks at the same time, like most amazing women do. So let's hear a little bit about this.
Yes, so I grew up thinking I'm going to be a journalist. That was the plan. That was the goal. I did writing boot camps all the way through middle school, all the way through high school, and I had my sights firmly, tunnel visioned on journalism. Went to undergrad at Hofstra to get a bachelor's in journalism, and
Wow.
I got to my senior year. I was doing internships, and I just realized this is not the right fit, which is really scary for someone in undergrad to get to, like, you're about to graduate and you're like, I don't want to do this thing that I've spent 10 years of my life thinking that I wanted to do. So I decided at that point, just keep going. We're going to graduate. And I used my last semester to take electives and just try to explore different things. I had no lawyers in my family. The only idea of a lawyer that I had was, watching Law and Order or CSI. You see them on TV and they go into courtroom in their suits and do criminal prosecution. You're like, okay, I was like, I don't want to do that. But I ended up taking a media law class and I loved the intellectual property, talking about First Amendment and seeing how the law really impacted businesses and just realizing that there's a whole side of that that I had never thought of before. And I kind of decided on a whim, like, you know what, I'm going to just follow this passion. This is something, it's the most excited I've been about a class in, my whole college education. So why not follow it? Um, Studied for the LSAT, applied to law schools, got into law school, started, and really just fell into working in corporate law. And it's been a great fit. It has not necessarily been easy. A lot of people say, they want to go in-house. You have to start with the law firm, which was challenging for me. I started my career at a law firm where I was the only female attorney and I was the youngest attorney by about 20 years. And it's a very unique experience being new in a profession and trying to build your confidence and learn really what you're supposed to be doing and how the professional environment works. And also realize that there's nobody that looks like you in this whole office. And it really, for me, quickly realized this was not the right place. They were not really looking to teach. They were not really looking to create an inclusive environment, an environment that was really a boys' club, and they kind of wanted to keep it that way.
Mm,
So after being there for really only about 6 months,
mm,
I said, you know what? I need a change and I need to really advocate for myself and find a place where someone sees the value that I'm bringing. And I ended up interviewing and accepting a position in-house with a small startup in the area. And I will never forget, I went into this partner's office and I gave my very professional 2 weeks notice, was ready to come up with a plan for how we were going to transition clients. And the first thing he said to me is, "Are you sure you wanna do this? You are ruining your career."
wow.
And it just it's a risk anytime you try something new, and it's a risk, especially going to a startup. It was a risk leaving a law firm after only, at this point, 8 months, and having that jump on my resume and just diving into something new. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't nervous. When he said that, I kinda went back to my office and closed the door and was like, "Should I do this? Like, am
Mm.
I is this gonna be a mistake? Am I gonna regret this?" And I really had to give myself a pep talk to not run back into his office and go, "Just kidding, just kidding, just kidding, I'll stay." But it ended up being the best decision that I could have made, not only for my legal career in getting me to a place where I was really valued and was where I wanted to be, but also talking about that kind of entrepreneurial side. That was the first time that I really advocated for myself, that I really put confidence and faith in myself and said, "No, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna trust myself. I believe that I can do this, and I'm gonna try it." And that really started, a whole domino effect.
You know what I really admire about your story? There are a couple of takeaways from your story, Katie. And number one, I it's sobering for me as a woman of color who's
Mhm.
had a similar experience in the workplace, being the only and the youngest, right? The only woman of color and the youngest, but you too, in your way, you've been the only too,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so that really like levels the playing field that some of our experiences as human beings really connects us,
Mhm.
regardless of the seat that we're in. Being the only female and being the youngest is a very unique experience that you and I both share and will forever be connected because of that. The next thing I wanted to celebrate is at a very early point in your career, you found your voice.
Mhm.
You used your voice in a way that promoted confidence, positive self talk. You recognized when you weren't in an environment that you could grow in, and you were willing to take the risk to exit that environment into another that would be a thriving one for you. And the other thing is advocating for yourself is something that I think we all need to like be still and listen in. I want to hold space for that, that it is not about complaining. It's
Mhm.
not about, demeaning the person or the company that gave you that job. It's about standing up for what you know you need in order to go to the next place, and that is what we have to be brave enough to do more of. So wanted to just celebrate that with you for a moment, that you were able to do that and look at where it got you. I mean,
Yeah.
now you're now you're like this a rock star entrepreneur and a rock star attorney in an environment that's supportive. And
Yes.
if
Yeah.
you didn't have the courage to take the right risk at the right time, you certainly would not be in this place. So lots of lessons for those who are dialing in just on, that leg of her story. Can you talk to me a little bit about like how you became Miss Maine? So what you talking about? Like
Oh,
I could see like the media attorney piece, right? Corporate law. I could see that, but like how did you get to Miss Maine? That's a story in of itself.
oh, it is. So I do a lot of nonprofit work. That's always been something that I'm really passionate about, really stemming from that experience of being the only one who looked like me in the room and going through trying to find a place where I was valued. I realized that, you mentioned courage. It does take courage to quit your job, to try something new. And that's a really hard step to take. And I realized very quickly after doing that that I wanted to be able to provide support for other women who were coming behind me, who were in that position as well. And how could I take the experience that I had and share that so that other women maybe didn't have to go through that or didn't stay in a position that wasn't right for them for longer than they should. So I'd been working with nonprofits in Maine, national nonprofits, to help women build their leadership, build confidence, build their networks, just create a support system for them to advance in their careers. And a pageant director reached out to me from Maine and she said, I've been seeing this nonprofit work you do. We would really love to have you compete for the title of Mrs. Maine. And I thought, really? I don't think so. Like, ma'am, you don't know me. I don't think I'm the right fit. And I honestly did not know how to politely just be like, no, thank you. So I said, okay, thank you so much. Let me think about it. So I said, okay, I'll just think about it for a couple of days and then give her a polite, I don't think this is a great fit. My husband comes home, we're having a conversation after dinner, and I said, "You're not gonna believe what happened to me today. Like this lady who I like have heard of but have never met, like she reached out, she invited me to be part of this pageant. Like, what is she thinking?" And my sweet husband, who has like all the faith in me in the world, just goes, "Why are you not gonna do that? Like, what? Why do you think that's so ridiculous?" And when he said that, I was kind of like, well, I guess I don't really have a reason other than it's outside of my comfort zone. It's something I never thought
Ah,
I would do. So I was immediately, shutting it down. And he said, "Yeah, I think it's worth looking into more. I think it's something you should explore." And I said, "Okay, okay, okay." So I set up a call with this director, learned more about the pageant, learned about what it would entail, and really realized it was about community service
mm,
first and foremost. And I said, "You know what? Why not? It's exciting, it's new. Let's do it." Who doesn't love, standing on stage in a fancy gown and talking about things you're excited about? Like that was how I went into it, really. I'm like, I'm not going to win this thing. Like, but I'll get up on stage. My family will come. It'll be a great, family experience. We'll all have a good time. And I won. And I'm standing up there. It's me and another woman are down to the top two. And we're, doing that stereotypical holding each other's hands, looking at each other. And I am up there, Tiffany, telling this lady and fully believing, I'm like, "I am so proud of you. You're gonna be amazing at this. Like, you're gonna do such a great job. You're gonna have so much fun at national." Like, just fully expecting her to win and singing her praises and like congratulating her. And they called my name. And I think I just blacked out. I'm gonna be honest. I like do not remember anything that happened after that. It was a tremendous opportunity to be able to have that title, and it just opens so many doors. Once you have a title, once you have a crown, nonprofits are a lot more receptive to having you volunteer. You can get media exposure. And I just got so excited about all of the ways that I could impact people
mm.
doing that. So I did my year with that organization and then retired my crown last October and thought, I don't want to be done. I want to keep making a difference. I want to keep doing it. And I actually signed up for another national pageant that will take place in July to just keep going and be able to continue to make an impact and use that platform as kind of a secondary way to help women.
Oh my, this is exciting.
It's
First of
so
all,
random. I was really like, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, and if you would have told me you're going to be in a pageant, you're going to be, you know, modeling on the side, you're going to be walking in New York Fashion Week, I would have like laughed at you. I'd been like, that's really funny. No. But I think one of the things that I've really tried to remember as all of this has started, that I think is just really important for everybody to remember is it's okay to just go with the flow. I'm a very type A person. I like a schedule. I like a plan. I wanted my 5-year plan. This was not on my 5-year plan. It was not on my 10-year plan. It was not on any plan that I could have thought of, but it's been amazing and worth just taking that risk and deviating to try something new.
oh my, I am so excited, and there's some sound bites I want to replay for everyone. The first one is what her husband said. And
Mm,
this is when we talk about Katie, for me, the distinction between empowering women and women's empowerment is very different. I'm my view of empowering women is not a political movement and it's
mhm,
not a movement. It is what we need to do with the women in our space because,
mhm,
like it or not, men and women, we coexist on the planet. And it's, to me, a way of being, right? The way you show up and support women, women in the workplace and women at home. And so we can't talk about empowering women without talking about the men behind them or beside them, in
yeah.
front of them, right? And the men that we may actually be leading in the workplace. So for your husband, the man behind you, to give you a platform to stand on and to recalibrate your thinking Like you said, he has all the faith in the world in me.
Oh,
That
yeah.
is amazing. So I want to take a moment, ladies, let's celebrate the men behind us. If there's a man that sent the elevator down for you in the workplace, a man that's your sponsor, that's your mentor. If there's a man at home that is supporting you, please, today, I want you to make sure you send a text message now and say thank you and celebrate exactly what it is he did or said for you that got you where you are now. And for you, Katie, to have your man be like, let's think about this differently. Number two takeaway here is you talked about getting out of your comfort zone. And I
Mm,
wanted to piggyback on that for people who are listening. What stood out for me, Katie, in this moment was about curiosity.
mm,
You opened yourself up to curiosity about what this opportunity could be. It wasn't a part of what you wanted to do, but you were curious. And I
mm,
think as women, as people, we have to stop saying this doesn't fit into the box I have in my mind. And so it is what you don't know what it is until you ask the question. So
yeah.
let's
Yeah.
cultivate more curiosity. And then the third thing is you had a bigger vision and mission in life as a driver. And that was your reason for being chosen. Someone saw that in you, but then you turned around and used this opportunity to propel your vision and mission. So, the third takeaway for women who are listening is what is your big vision, your big why? What is the legacy you want
Mm.
to leave behind? And let that propel you forward in everything that you do. That's what I took away from your story, Katie. So we'll be rooting for you in this. We'll be watching to see what happens, but we're very excited about the nonprofit work that you do to support women. And I can't wait to work alongside you in some of this work in the years to come. Leading fearlessly, you have modeled that. I see why you picked the brand that you did.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you.
So I want to, if we could shift for a second.
Yeah.
I want you to go back to the workplace that you're in as a lawyer, right? You were the youngest, you were the only, but now you were in another firm in which you feel supported. When did you first notice you were being groomed for leadership? See, it's one thing to be in a to practice, the practitioner. It's another thing to lead. So when did you notice you were being tapped for leadership?
Really, a few months after I started at my current position. When I was at the startup, I stayed there for about 3 years. And I actually almost the opposite happened. I noticed I wasn't being set up for leadership. And I noticed that there weren't opportunities to become a people leader in that environment. And that was something that I wanted to do. It felt right for me. So after a few years of realizing that I wasn't really building those leadership skills and I wasn't being groomed for that leadership, I said, once again, I need to find a place that's a better fit. I started at my current company. I worked for a Fortune 500 company about 3.5 years ago and really immediately sensed the difference in culture that they were very focused on promoting from within. And the first sign for me was during my interview, actually. I asked everybody, they always give you a chance to ask questions. And I think that's the best time of an interview because you want to make sure the place is a good fit for you as well, not just that you're a good fit for them. And so I ask everybody, one of my favorite questions is, how long have you been with the company and what has made you want to stay? What do you enjoy? And going around the circle as a panel Zoom interview, going through the boxes, there were answers like, "Oh, I've been here 24 years. Oh, I've been here 15 years. I've been here." I think the shortest amount of time that someone said was like, "I'm new. I've only been here 5 years." For so many companies, someone who's been here 5 years, they're like the longest. And I realized like, okay, this is a company that is taking the people who are working there and who are instilling in them leadership skills and building them up to be leaders within the company because you look at these people who have been here for 20 something years and are leading. And so that really indicated to me very quickly that this was a place that I was interested in. And as soon as I got there, I expressed an interest. I said, I want to be able to move up. I want to be a people leader. I want to get to that point. And not only did I have bosses who were really supportive of that and tried to put me in projects, in rooms, on Zoom calls where I could grow my brand, grow my visibility within the company. But I took initiative too. I
Mm.
knew I wanted to be a people leader. I knew I didn't have experience leading people. So I figured, okay, what can I do? And I actually took a class, an online class on leadership
Mm.
and how to be an effective leader. So when a promotion was available and I was up against all individuals who had been at the company longer than I had, who had more experience than I had, some of whom had led teams before, and they said, why you? I was able to say, I know I have not done this specifically before, but
Mm.
I've done this training. I've taken this class. I've been working on these things. So I know that I know what I need to do this job effectively. And it was great to be able to say that and then have the people who had been working with me there to back me up and say, "Yeah, we know, we've seen the work she's done. This is how we've worked with her," and really advocate for me. I'm very fortunate to have a boss who is a middle-aged white man who's just there. We talked about kind of the men in our lives that support us and help empower women, and he is one of them who has really been there to help me advance in the ways that I've wanted to.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I love that you called out, I didn't have it. I wanted it. I went and got it. I was hungry. Just really quick, if we could close the gap. Did the company, since you were at a Fortune 500 company, of course they supported training and development, did they have any like roadmap already outlined for leaders, new people that wanted to be people leaders? And what do you see as a need for more people like you in the workplace?
Mm.
How can employers like meet that hunger that other women like you have that are entering the workplace with not a lot of people leader experience?
That is such a great question. We did not have a kind of path to leadership identified. We had those very generic corporate trainings that I think every company has that, in my opinion, are not the most effective, but you could take them if you wanted. And I think we really do need a more defined pathway. I
Mm.
was very fortunate since my boss was such an advocate for me that when I would bring opportunities to him and say, I'm interested in this class. Is there a way that I can get partial funding from the company to do that? He would always advocate for me in those requests. And that's really important. But I would love to see companies offer kind of built in training opportunities for women and for really anyone who wants to take on a leadership role. Our company has started doing that in the last couple of years since I've taken on a leadership role. It's called Bonfire Beyond. It's a
Mm.
leadership program that a certain number of people within the company can take every year. And I think that is really tremendously helpful for people who want to go into leadership. But that is something I would really like to see more companies focus on is outlining how do you get here. I had to take that initiative to have the conversations with my boss and say, for your job, what are the skills that make you successful? What are the things that I need to learn to get there? But there wasn't really anything that prescribed that I could follow. And I think having those things built in not only sets leaders and future leaders up for success, but I think it's really beneficial to the companies too, because being able to promote from within and retain that talent is really a huge benefit. I cannot tell you the individuals that I work with that have been with the company for 20, 25, 30 years are such a wealth of knowledge
Mm.
and have so much institutional experience and bring so much of that value. That's a very unique perspective to bring in. And I think it's really important for companies to have both that institutional knowledge and new ideas as well. But when you're not creating that path, especially for women to move up, you're losing them
Mm.
and you're losing that experience that they have that really would be beneficial.
Yeah, there's a call to action here for sure. At Virtual Partner, one of the things that I've been doing behind the scenes and working with some of my clients on succession planning
Mhm.
is that very thing. But we go back before you even start thinking about succession planning, what infrastructure, we talk about helping them build the infrastructure they need in the company for people to have the path
Mhm.
forward. You know, when you start talking about succession planning, you're planning 2 to 5 years out, but people need to see a path, and that path can't be when someone's about to retire.
Mhm.
Like we need to shorten the runway for leaders. And so I've stood up as a beta. It's the Transformation Leadership Academy we're launching in the spring. We're piloting this just for people who lead transformation in organizations. Like,
Mhm.
virtual partner can't do everything,
Mhm.
but I can laser in and try to do a few things really, really well. And so we're going to pilot. If we create a roadmap for leaders of transformation, does that shorten the runway for them? And to your point, the bonfire and beyond, that is obviously a program. So some companies have programs, but it needs to be more a way of being baked in, built in,
Mhm.
as opposed to I have to go hunt and peck for it. It needs to
Mhm.
be, the culture that we have is to groom others for leadership. Everyone is a leader. We're grooming everyone, and we don't have fear of losing our jobs. We create
Mhm.
a culture of growth and continuous learning. That's how organizations continue to stay alive. And like you say, retain talent, top talent,
Yeah.
So thank you very much for that call out. I definitely appreciate what your organization has done for you. But the other piece of this is, if you're sitting in a place with an amazing organization, curiosity again. What training can I participate? How can I get there? I'm raising my hand. I want to be tapped for the people leader role.
Mhm.
So that's excellent. So since we're talking about shortening the leadership journey, I have this ambitious goal to do that for women from the front door to the top floor in less than 10 years. And She Rises, the podcast, is also a part of an empirical research study, and that comes with a survey. So, my question is for you, I'm just curious what your take is. What's one thing you think we can do to shorten the leadership journey? Is it just training at the door, or is it something else?
One of the things that I've seen that is so important and I think really underrated in companies is mentorship.
Mm.
I know everybody's busy. And I think that's one of those things you hear a lot when you talk about mentorship programs for companies is, oh, we don't have time for that. Oh, I get it, but it's so important because especially for women to have someone to provide the guidance, to provide that pathway is critical in order to advance leadership. And I don't think a mentorship program needs to be this huge, super formal endeavor. I've seen so many different companies implement really cool, more informal programs,
Mm.
but it's really about making sure that those people who are coming in have the resources that they need to understand how to be successful at the company and have a place where they can go when they need support. Because you and I both know you may not want to go to your boss all the time with a question or with a concern. You may not know how to phrase it. So having a mentor, whether it's someone else, in a different division of the company or a peer that you can say, "Hey, this is what I'm thinking. Can I get a gut check on this?"
Mm.
Um, and I think if companies can really focus on building that culture, it's really helpful. And I would say to women, if your company doesn't have that, go find it. It really is worth it. There are so many women's networking groups, nonprofits. Tiffany and I actually met at the Massachusetts Conference for Women, which is a great spot to go to network. I mean, look at what this turned into. But just go and doing those things and finding a network of people so that when you are at a point where you're not sure if something's a good fit, you're not sure if it's the right risk, you want more leadership development, but your company doesn't have a program, you can call someone like Tiffany and say, hey, I'm looking to build up my leadership. What are some programs you know? Are there podcasts I should listen to? Are there people I should talk to? Coaching I can take on? All of those things, and just having someone to bounce those off of and provide that guidance since they've been there and done some of these things, I think is really the biggest way we can shorten that runway.
I love it. As you mentioned mentoring, I'm curious if your organization, if you're aware of in your organization, the difference between mentoring and sponsorship, and if that's been
Mm.
called out yet, what you've noticed in that space of sponsoring a person through leadership versus mentoring them.
I love that you brought that up. At my company, we don't have a formal mentorship or sponsorship program, but it is still super, super important. I have a lot of mentors. I have a lot of women inside and outside of my company that I can talk to, that I can get advice from. And that's invaluable for me to be able to bounce things off of those people. But what I think has really been critical for me getting to the next level is that sponsorship. My current boss has been a tremendous sponsor for me. And I say that not that he doesn't serve as a mentor. I do ask him a lot of questions. I do seek his guidance a lot. But I think it's really important to still have that person who is talking about you when you're not in the room.
Yes.
And that's what, you can't be in every room. Unfortunately, it'd be cool if you could, and you could advocate for yourself and show off your fantastic talents and personality. But it's so important to have someone who will speak up for you, who will advocate for you. And I know that my boss has been that person. I know that when I'm not on calls, I can count on him to say, Katie worked on this project and she did a fantastic job with it. Or, Katie found this leadership training that she would like to do. This is why I think it's really worth us investing in. And without those people, I think it's hard to sometimes make your way into the rooms that you're not in. They kind of bring you with them. So I think it's hard to cultivate kind of a formal sponsorship culture because you want to really believe in the person that you're sponsoring. But I think it's important, going back to what companies can do, is really ingrain in the culture how important that is and make it a priority. I think businesses can get really focused on getting the deals done, the bottom line, what are those things we have to check the box? And they kind of forget the people part of it. And I think making sponsorship and mentorship a priority, starting at the top, everybody is sponsoring, everybody is mentoring. And I think seeing that within an organization, when when you step foot in an organization where people are mentoring each other and they're sponsoring each other, you can tell because the whole vibe is different and the group is collegial and they're trusting of one another and they're collaborative and everybody is lifting each other up.
Mm,
And the whole, I can say I've seen it at my current company. Our whole legal department is rising together.
mm.
And that is very unique and it's very impactful. And I think it's important that that culture shift starts to happen everywhere.
I love it. And one thing I want to zero in on for those that are listening that are at senior leader levels, the shift has to happen at the top.
Mhm.
The cultural shift, right? Creating the culture of sponsoring and mentoring, it starts at the top. and identifying not just top talent, but identifying high potential in your organization and investing there. We need intentionality as leaders around that space. So thank you for that call out. Now, since you're in the legal space, I would be remiss if I didn't try to go down this path with you, right? I think you know where I'm going with
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
The landscape
Mhm.
global, the world has become a smaller place through globalization. And COVID taught us all that we could work together all over the world. We just figure out our time zones and we made it work. Zoom brought us together. There were platforms way before Zoom. Of course, I remember I'm dating myself, 1989. I worked in my first international team. My team members were in 14 continental European countries, and I was based out of Philadelphia. My leader was from Abu Dhabi. And so, and my hiring manager was from Sweden, and my VP was from Germany. And yet our team was all over and we worked virtually. But COVID, fast forward a
Mhm.
gazillion years later, has brought the rest of the world up in terms of globalization. So, as we start to think about diversity in the workplace and
Mhm.
the ability to create inclusive workspaces, as an attorney deeply involved with in the D&I space, especially when we carve out the space around women, you've observed the legal frameworks and corporate policies shaping the journeys toward more inclusive workplaces, and also some that are dialing back
Mhm.
their commitment to creating the intentionality to create more inclusive workspaces. In your view, how can organizations build leadership teams that not only reflect global diversity, but also ensure robust representation of women in the
Mhm.
age of dialing back and some companies doubling down? Your take.
I am so saddened when I see the companies that are dialing back. I understand legal risk. I do understand where some of these companies are coming from, but it really is not only a disadvantage for the people who work there, but really a disadvantage overall for their profitability and their success long term. So many studies have shown that diverse teams perform better. I think COVID did so much to transform the way we work. And one of the things that I think it really brought us is an ability to be more inclusive. Working remotely, I think, has tremendous benefits, especially for women. Being able to have flexibility in your work, we know just statistically, women tend to be the ones balancing everything. They're really running the house, they're managing the kids. Just statistically, that's what we see. And when you have women who are doing all of that and trying to work and trying to go into an office and have a set schedule and be physically that's just really hard. And I think we see a lot of women kind of being more disadvantaged by that rigid structure.
Mm.
So I think it's really important for companies, now that we have this ability. We have Zoom, we have Teams, we have video chats, we have cell phones and computer. You can do so much remotely and flexibly. And I think if we can see companies really leaning into that, that's going to help us build a really diverse workforce and give those folks that have other commitments, that do have household responsibilities, that have family responsibilities, that need to leave at 3 to go pick children up from school, or need to take a break for religious reasons at time. Like, being flexible allows us to bring everybody in and not have them be at a disadvantage for not being able to keep those traditional in-person working hours. So I think we're really moving in a great direction. I think this is just a time of a lot of potential for us to be able to hire people from all over the globe to get those unique perspectives, no matter where you're based. My company is based out of Chicago. I'm based in Maine. I
Wow.
do not go into an office. I work with attorneys literally from all over the world. who are coming together to support this organization, bringing those perspectives of all of the different things that they see globally. And I think we really need companies to lean into that to really especially benefit women in the workplace.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One of my teams that I work with in my business, they're in India, team full of women. I did not have one male. Well, I
Oh
did
my
have some male on the technical side, but my key team, core team, direct reports, they were women. And at night, and I always led off. I met with them early in the morning or late, which was late at night for them, and vice versa. But one of the things that we always did was gave them permission. Like, you don't have to mute your kids. Right? I
Mhm,
wanted to have a diverse team. That
mhm,
meant I needed to understand the complexities of life and hold space for that instead of this rigid, this is the way we behave on the call. We do have a way to behave on calls. But, there's sort of like when you have a global team, there's a lot of room for creativity and
mhm,
innovation when you hold space for them. And managing the time zones means that we also have to create safety where people understand, like, I want to see your cute little kid, so let me see them before you hand them off to the dad, you know. And we had a lot of joy in our working together because as a leader, I created a space for women to come to work, and I also understood that they wear many, many hats. And I think that's also another shift as we think about the cultural environment we begin to create as leaders. But I want to tap one more question on this really quick. How do you see the role of legal and policy driven initiatives in accelerating representation of women in the workplace, women in leadership roles? Do you see policy in the legal system playing out at all, or is it going to be more human centered driven?
I think it's a mix. I think it is important that we have laws and policies in place that advocate for equality. But I think we've all seen, company policies that are policies on paper and don't really make their way into the culture.
Mm.
So it's really a combination. I think we need those C-suite executives, those high-end leaders to be buying into those policies and to really be incorporating them into the culture because policies are great, laws are great, but if they're not enforced, if they're not really made part of the company culture, I think the efficacy of those really drops. And I think vice versa. If it's not a policy, but everybody's doing it, it's still really effective. So it's got to be a combination of the two of those. And really it's up to those leaders to figure out the culture that they want to create and lead from the top down. When you have their buy-in, it's a lot easier to affect that change.
I love it. That's very insightful on your part. And I just want to call out the call to action here is if you are in a leader seat, then the culture that we are creating, we need to drive that down. And if you're in the middle, I think it's hard when you're in the middle, but you can create a culture on your team of belonging, inclusivity, and support, sponsoring, and mentorship. So whatever seat you're in, driving that down is really important. But at the executive team level, the corporate level, we really need to start there, converting policy into practice, right?
Mhm.
Closing the gap between what we know and what we do, right? I love that. Thank you so much. It was very insightful. Okay. As we wind down our time together, this is our look back. So, what would you
Okay.
tell? We're making a shift, reflections. What would you tell your 25-year-old self? What advice would you give yourself?
I think I would tell myself to stop worrying so much. I had a plan, I had a path, I had my to-do list, and I wanted it all to go that way. And I think it's wonderful to have goals. I still have goals, but I'm trying to be more flexible with it and to have goals that I want to meet, to have a path that I see myself on, but also be open to those new opportunities and being open to pivoting. I think so often when you're younger, and I know I did this when I was younger, I was too worried about making the wrong choice. You're graduating from law school and you're going, what if I pick the wrong first job? It's a first job. You will learn something from it and you will find another. It's like I thought that this was the job that I was committing to for the rest of my life, and it wasn't. And that was fine. I changed my major. I decided to go to grad school. I ended up getting my MBA during COVID because I wanted to be more business focused in my legal work. Like, all of those pivots can happen. It is never too late to make a change. And I think when you have those blinders on, you miss out on some really, really great things. So I wish I would have just relaxed a little more, enjoyed the ride, and been less worried about doing the quote unquote right thing.
Love it. That's excellent advice. Okay, who's your superhero? Mine's Wonder Woman because of her courage and compassion, her power and compassion. She balances it. Who's yours?
This is probably a very cliche answer. I'm like gonna put my hand up and say it. Mine is my mom. My
It's not cliche. So many women say their mom.
They do, but I can tell you why too. So my mom unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago,
Sorry to hear.
and she had a lengthy battle with cancer. She was a rock star throughout my whole life. She really instilled in me that you have the power to create your own destiny. You have the power to make change. But watching her battle cancer, which I know was not easy, but she kept the most positive attitude. She made the most of every opportunity. And it really just hit home to me how important your resilience is, how important your mindset is, how powerful we as women are to create the reality that we want. And I think that's why I have to say she would be my superhero, because every day when I get frustrated or I'm stressed, I think I have the power to impact this situation. I have the power to change things, to and if you don't even have the power to change the situation around you, you can change your mindset every time.
What was your mother's name?
Janice.
Janice. Miss Janice would be so proud of the woman that you are today and hearing your reflections of her impact on you. That is
Thank you.
moving. I love it. Thank you very much. Rapid fire.
Okay.
What current books are you reading or would you recommend leaders read?
Ooh, I am actually reading How to Do the Work by Nicole LePera. It's a little bit more, I guess what you call like a self-help or psychological book that really kind of digs into childhood trauma and past trauma and how it affects your nervous system. But I'm finding it so incredibly interesting. I am also a huge, huge, huge fan of anything by Brene Brown. Like, I think I've read all of her books, and I just think she has the best practical advice. And then the last one I would say is I heard a woman speak last year. Her name's Dr. Heather Backstrom. She has this idea of collaborative confidence. She wrote a book on it. And it's this idea that you're responsible not only for your own confidence, but lifting those up around you. And I love that concept. So that's a book I would definitely recommend.
Thank you very much, and we can't wait to pull your book list too from your podcast as a reading list. So thank you very much. As we wind down our time together, I want to remind everyone you can find Katie Day Winchenbach on LinkedIn. Her website is KD Winchenbach, and I'm saying Winchenbach so you get the Winchenbach, Winchenbach. And I'm very happy, Katie. Thank you so very much for joining us today. As we wrap up today's enlightening conversation, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to you for sharing invaluable insights with us, your experience with us, and also for sharing the story of your mother. It was very touching and makes us all reflect on the women in our lives that supported us along the way. Your mom's words of wisdom, may they continue to guide you in the future. Your journey and your dedication to empowering women are truly inspiring. Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you for having me. And please do feel free to anyone listening, connect with me on LinkedIn. I am always happy to chat, to answer questions, to provide resources, anything I can do to help folks along in their leadership journey.
That's a wrap for today's episode of She Rises. I hope you found inspiration, insight, and the motivation to keep pushing forward on your leadership journey. Remember, success isn't about reaching the top. It's about lifting others as you rise. If you love this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other powerhouse women in your life. Follow me, Tiffany-O, and Virtual Partner for more resources on leadership, organizational growth, and creating workplaces where humanity thrives. Until next time, keep rising, keep leading, and keep making an impact.